I'm Jill Krieger.
Hi, I'm Paul Dixon.
Hi, I'm Casey Dixon. Hi, I'm Shaylee Bell.
The United States of America is on the brink of another depression. With a sweltering debt exceeding over $14 trillion, Congress and the Senate are both working on plans to try to get us out of the mess we're in, but to no avail. It seems like they just keep digging a hole deeper and deeper and deeper, with no real end in sight. Is there any hope left for America, or is this the end of the American dream and America as we know it? In order to understand the current mess that we're in, I've spent the past few years following, researching, and debating the problem at hand of America's fiscal irresponsibility. Not only is America's economy on the edge of ruin, but the Asian and European markets are there as well. With the almost sure demise of the Italian, Greek, and Irish economies, the world is holding their breath, standing still. Through careful thought, budgeting, and redirecting of funds, there may still be hope for America. There may still be hope to revitalize our economy as we know it into the thriving market it once was. We need to realize the importance of balancing America's budget, and in doing so before it's too late. Over the next few minutes, I'd like to discuss the history of America's debt, the current situation that we're in, and some of the ways that we might be able to fix the problems that we've gotten ourselves into. We know the problem facing America, but first, we need to look at how we got there. It all started with the birth of a new nation. At the end of the Revolutionary War, America was heavily in debt, roughly $80 million, almost $1 billion in today's standards. The Founding Fathers realized the importance of paying off the debt and were adamant about doing so. Benjamin Franklin and the other Founding Fathers even went as far as to borrow $6 million from France and $2 million from the Dutch to help pay off our national debt. As represented by this chart, $1 billion was our national debt in the early 1800s, late 1700s. As represented by this chart over here, our national debt now stands at $14 trillion. As you can tell, my chart making abilities can't really match up to the debt that we're in. John Jay, one of our other founding fathers and the first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, said this: "Let it never be said that America had no sooner become independent than she became insolvent, or that her infant glories and growing fame were obscured and tarnished by contracts and violated faith, in the very hour when all the nations of the earth were admiring and almost adoring the splendor of her rising." As said before, our debt wasn't all that much at the end of the Revolution in today's standards, but it was a massive amount then, and our Founding Fathers took the steps needed to get it paid off. By 1834, President Andrew Jackson had paid off all of our nation's debt, and we were, for once and only, a debt-free nation. It didn't remain that way for long, though. With the coming of the Civil War, it caused America to go back into debt. But for that short time, we had reached a milestone in economic stability that we would never see again, but hopefully will one day. Even after the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and many other conflicts that America has been involved in, we remained a shining example of an economically sound nation until this past August. If you haven't heard, America lost its sterling credit rating, a AAA credit rating, that we had held for hundreds of years. And for the past 7 years, we had specifically held that AAA credit rating. Now that we see and understand how we got here, let's take a look at the current situation that we're in a little bit more. Even though we haven't defaulted on our debts, and we still have a really good credit rating, there are still many struggles that a lot of people see America facing, and because of this, a lot of people are losing faith in the dollar, in the U.S. dollar. And even though we've always been able to pay our debts, the more and more that we put ourselves into debt, the less and less people have faith in our abilities to do so. With our economy slowly crumbling, it's also causing the other world economies to do the same. With the current European and Asian markets, the way that our markets are so intertwined, if one of us falls, we're all going to fall. Our budget cuts aren't cutting it like they should, and our parties in the House and Senate aren't doing the jobs they need to do to create a safe fiscal future for us all. Now that we've seen a little bit of the mess we're in, let's look at some ways to fix it. As represented by this chart, you can see how our debt has risen slowly from $1 billion in the late 1700s, falling all the way to zero in 1834, and rising ever since, especially within the past 50 years, to trillions of dollars. We need to stop spending more than we make as a nation. We need to elect officials who are genuinely concerned with the problem at hand, and stop electing those that aren't doing anything about it. My dad used to always tell me, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. Since President Eisenhower, each president has increasingly spent more than the national income has been able to bring in. We also need to stop creating useless departments and programs. For example, under President George Washington, there were 4 cabinet departments. Now that number has quadrupled, and we now have 16 total departments, cabinet departments. Another way that we can fix this problem is the institution of a flat tax versus the current tax code that we're in. Our current tax code has 3.8 million words. That's 11,000 double-spaced pages, and is one of the most complex tax codes in the world, KIB 2011. If we were to institute a flat tax, what this basically would mean is exactly how it sounds. A flat tax would be placed on all of our incomes, usually estimating to be 20% of what we make, back 2011. Success of the flat tax rate can be seen in other countries such as Russia and a lot of its satellite countries. In 2001, Russia implemented the flat tax and immediately saw a 5% increase in their GDP within the first year, and it has been steadily rising ever since. As you can see, the problems at hand are staggering, but there is still hope. If we can elect those officials that genuinely care about our problems, elect those officials that are going to do something about balancing our budget as a nation, and even going as far as getting rid of our current tax code and the implementation of a flat tax, we can turn around what we have as we are slowly heading towards destruction as a nation. As President Ronald Reagan once said, we don't have $1 trillion debt because we haven't taxed enough. We have $1 trillion debt because we spend too much.